You're listening to Parasearch Radio, news, views and reviews from the world of the paranormal from across the UK and beyond. Find us on Facebook, Twitter and the World Wide Web. Parasearch UK Radio. Parasearch Radio, broadcasting to the UK and beyond.
The views and opinions expressed by presenters and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Parasearch Radio or its affiliates and sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Good evening and welcome to the Paranormal Pop-Up Show. My name is Kerry Greenaway and I'm joined in the studio by Mr. Paul Rook. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, how are you?
It's Sunday evening. This is a bit weird, right?
Oh, isn't it just? It's almost like a paranormal concept show on a Sunday.
And it's an hour late than normal.
I know. X-rated tonight.
Do you feel it's a bit like naughty? Do you feel like we've stormed the studio and it's like, ooh, we're being naughty?
No, not really, because we don't. We do what we like.
Well, that's true. We can do exactly what we like. Anyway, Paranormal Pop-Up Show. The concept is we have no set discussion. We fly by the seat of our pants to talk about anything. If you've got any questions, pop them in the chat room. And we will do our best to see how we can answer it. Or not, as the question may be. Depending. Hi, Richard. So, we went out last night, didn't we, Paul?
We did. Yeah. Very interesting night.
And we went to a place that took us back to our very, very first Virgin Paranormal Investigation steps.
It was, wasn't it?
It was a very big blast from the past, I have to say.
It was. Yeah, I mean, I've heard, I know people that have had experiences there, and that's why I went there originally. But I mean, I've been there. I've not really experienced too much, but I've gone with mediums as well. And there's a particular spirit there, and I mentioned it to you yesterday. I was like, "There's Danny's spirit just sits over there."
This is true. It was weird going back to somewhere we did so many years ago.
Yeah, it was. It was very good. But it's a nice location as well. Nice, quiet, out of the way. Suddenly you got running by, but you can't help that really.
The funny thing is, I have to say, when we went back, like last night, now obviously, when we first started doing it, you're quite naive, aren't you, when you first start investigating? Well, when we went back last night, it's a really pretty location, but it's right by a train line.
Yeah, that's it. We was discussing that while we was there.
We were discussing that because there were things that had happened on the investigation that we now look at and go, well, like, obviously, it was because of that, right?
Yeah.
And there was a ghost hunting team there, weren't there?
There was, and they were, yeah. It was. I'd actually be interested to see what they actually experienced that night, see whether it coincides with what we was talking about. Because we was talking about the EMF and from the train lines and the electricity and stuff running through the lines. Mm-hmm. So it'd be interesting to see what that.
But I can't. It was like when we saw the ghost hunting team there. It felt like it was a bit like we were those people once upon a time doing that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, very much so. Glad I've learned from that. experience.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a hell of a lot of fun, right?
Oh, of course it is.
Like when you've got your KT meter and you're getting hits off of it and you're having a conversation, you're asking questions, then you get another hit, and then you ask another
and the
question, and you get another hit. Yeah,
and the anticipation of what's going to be going on, and are we going to like catch any spirits of monks and stuff? Because obviously, as a church, it's like the belief system that we talk about so much is very ingrained in that.
Exactly. It's really weird, isn't it? When you it felt. I don't know how it felt for you, but I felt a little. It felt a little weird.
Yeah, it did. But again, I think it's because, obviously, as you said, when we went there the first time, it was the excitement and everything that drove us to want the experiences. And now we've had these experiences and stuff, and it's not a letdown, but if anything happens, we can pretty much explain some of it away.
Some of it, yeah. I mean, there are instances we've both had, which is a little weird. You know, it's not that easily explainable. You can look at the experiences from different perspectives. I think that's where we'll go with that. Yeah,
definitely. Because, I mean, you can explain things that I can't, and vice versa, really.
Because I'm crap at tech. We all know that.
Really? I hadn't noticed.
Honestly, I know people don't tell people about this, but I'm actually really bad at tech.
You heard it here first, everybody.
Mate, I've been saying it for months, years. I think I've been saying that.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, but don't tell everybody.
Oh, I got to tell everybody. It's called being honest.
Well, yeah. Okay.
So, no, that's what it felt for me. It felt weird to be back in time.
It was a very, very interesting location anyway. And I think, as you said, like seeing the ghost hunters there, and it's like, exciting times ahead for them, I should imagine.
I mean, as we walked past them, they were regaling other people that were with them. We don't know whether we didn't stop and talk because, we just didn't. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And but they were regaling stories about things that they'd experienced.
Yeah, that was quite interesting as well, because I think they were talking about stones being thrown at them at one stage.
No, that was me. I was telling you, as we walked under the bridge, I was telling you, wasn't I, that...
Oh, no, it was after that, as we walked past them.
Oh, I thought you were talking about ping pong balls.
No, he mentioned, like, little... It was not stone. I think he said it's like stones being thrown at us, but they like the little pellet things, like the airsoft.
Oh,
units. Yeah, I thought they mentioned those.
No, I thought they said
I slept since then, so...
But it was like wandering around this graveyard, and it was like, don't step on the graves, it's disrespectful.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. It was really weird. But fascinating little place. We was there at sunset, and it was quite atmospheric, quite an atmospheric time. And we're in like this little church graveyard, middle of nowhere, apart from a train line. And
I think it's called, isn't it St Mary's of the Antioch or something?
Oh, I don't know.
Along those lines. I'm sure it's something like that.
I've been to quite a few different churches over my time.
Yeah, I've been to quite a lot as well.
That, like, at the end of the day, when you first start out, it's like the free location, isn't it? It's like you're cutting your teeth on, outdoor accessible places that you can go that have got like local ghost stories. I mean, there's a pub near me that we used to go to, and you go behind it and you can go out onto like this jetty thing, and there's like a massive ghost story, like things like that around that area. And it's we used to go there quite a lot. But I have to say, when we was using the tech, it wasn't a question of we kind of never questioned it. Like if I got a hit on a K2 meter or something like that, you know, at the time, this is, and I'm going back a long time, you know, you wouldn't ever go, oh, it could be, I don't know, we just weren't even thinking about if it was something else, you know, if there was an source.
No, that's it. I think, you know, as I said earlier, we just went out to try and experience some of the things that we see on and I think that's why most people want to go out and do it anyway. But you still get the people who want to learn and progress in the paranormal field, like what we have. Or you'll get the people that believe it 100% and don't want to listen to the truth. Mm-hmm. And they're quite happy going along their happy lives, you know, quite fixed on what they believe is true. And then there's us going, well, actually, it's not, but oh dear.
No, but that's only from now. You can look at it from that perspective. But take yourself back in time where, and I know for you, it's like a long time ago. Do you know what I mean? It's like cast your minds back into the mists of time, Paul. Once upon a time, you was that person. You was that person. But to be fair, when we started, there was like the basics, wasn't there? I think Ovilus was just coming onto the scene, whereas since then there's been a bit of an explosion. I mean, if you had an Ovilus back in the day, it was like, oh God, you're like, oh my God, you've got an Ovilus. Do you know what I mean? So you was using basic equipment that was available at the time.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I used an Ovilus, first time ever. And I'll give a shout out actually because it was Dawn Clark's Ovilus.
Oh, right, yeah.
She got it for Christmas. She was really proud of it. And I was pointing it at a blank wall, and this is a blank wall. It was a plastered wall that was painted white, right? So we are talking a blank wall, and faces were appearing in the matrix on that, and I was getting I just remember going, oh my God, there's a face. How is it doing that?
Yeah, but you've learned since then.
No, I know I've learned since then. But when I look back at that time, I was so excited and I was getting so much pleasure from the field by not having the knowledge. Oh, God, I just said that out loud. It was fun. Yeah. It was fun. And we did experience stuff. I mean, that's the point. I mean, there is still stuff that happened back then. Even with all that knowledge, I still can't explain it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are lots of things I could explain now as well, but we definitely had experiences that I still look back on and think, we all experienced that. That was weird. That was weird.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, Orbs is the same. I mean, I posted up the other day, and you know what? Sometimes there's really no helping some people. Someone was talking about orbs they posted a video, I think it was, and there was a few dust orbs in there. So I actually posted the scientific explanation for it from the ASSAP underneath to explain, you know, that's what it is. It's scientifically proven. They've done the research. There it is. And he come back and he said, yeah, but that's only in their opinion. I could have banged my head against a brick wall there, right there and then.
But again, go back in time. I mean, I remember back in day, as we were talking about this on the Gemma Does TV show, where we were saying that when we first started watching, like when I first watched Most Haunted, their first series of Most Haunted was all orbs every week.
Yeah.
Right? And I kind of thought it was a manifestation of spirit.
Yeah, but then that's what they said. But that was only their theory. And obviously, you know, you get that on the TV and you have things thrown at them left, right and centre. And that was what pushed me into the paranormal. It's like, I want to experience this for myself. So I got the experience. I then done the research into what exactly could cause them. You know, so I pretty much discount orbs as well now, so...
Well, yeah, now we do, but I say, I know it's a long time ago, but there was a time where you would have been excited by that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, right from the beginning, you are, and it sort of encouraged me to learn more. and yeah, I mean that's what got me into the field in the first place. So I won't completely, slate TV shows. I mean, I don't watch them anymore because they just irritate me. Because they're just full of the same stuff all the time.
Well, yeah, but that's not really where I was going to go with the going down to talk about TV shows. I wanted to go back to your early experiences in the field. Like when you first started. I mean, I know you've experienced some super strange stuff without the knowledge you've got now.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we have. The first case we went to was a poltergeist one. Apparently, down in Hastings, we was called to a private house. They claimed they had poltergeist activity going off, and it was every night. So we decided to go down there, and because they wanted a cleansing done. There was a bit of a backstory to like children that they'd lost and things like that. So there was a bit of a backstory, emotional backstory to it. But this spirit is almost like it wanted to let them know that it was there, so it would just move things and throw things about and stuff. It wouldn't hurt anyone, but they just wanted a cleansing done as a peace of mind sort of thing. So we went down there, and absolutely nothing happened. Mm-hmm. And because that was quite disappointing, really. And we went to do the cleansing, and as we was cleansing all the rooms, I think we got around a third of the house, and then the woman was like, "No, I don't want it done now. Stop. I want to leave." And we was like, "Well, we've got 2 rooms left." And like, "No, I don't want it done." And we're like, "Well, we've done the cleansing in 2 rooms, so you're only going to get the spirit will come in and just reside in these 2 rooms. It won't go in the others." And they're like, "No, when it stopped, go." I was like, "Okay, that's fine. Whatever you want." And then a couple of months later, we was again contacted by the same people, and they were like, "The spirit's gone from their house to her brother's in London.
Right?
Can you go and do the cleansing down there as well?" And we was like, "You really sure you want us to do this cleansing? Because last time you want it stopped. You sure this is what you really want? Because I don't want to go down there and then be told no again."
Yeah, get halfway through it, and it's no stop.
Exactly, it's like slapping the face for the spirit,
I've cleansed this house, but you've got 2 rooms.
Yeah, exactly. But then, I mean, I've always asked why. Everything that's always happened right from the beginning, it's always been why. Even watching Most Haunted and Ghost Adventures and all the other TV shows and stuff, I've always asked why that's happened. What is it? So I've always had that inquisitiveness there.
I have to say, I didn't ever ask why when it was when I was just going back in my Muggle days.
Well, I can understand why spirit throw things at a vet. To be fair, because I think I would.
I can understand my husband does.
Ooh, blow the bell.
Ooh, sorry everybody, that's very disrespectful. I do apologise.
I actually commented on a post today. Again, it was about TV shows, and I did say, look, that given their dues, they have brought people into the paranormal for pure interest. But like I said earlier in the show, it's like some people beyond wanting the help. Some people are quite happy to believe whatever Yvette Fielding and Zach Baggins scream as they're running out of the unhaunted locations. That's exactly how I said it as well. It's like some people don't want to believe it. They don't want the truth. They're just quite happy believing what they see on the TV.
And but at the end of the day, if you are going to go into the field, I have to say the shift for me was when I stepped into the field. When I was just watching it on television, like my usual Tuesday night with the girls, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's sort of what we did on a Tuesday. They'd come round and the boys would go snooker or pool or whatever it was they were doing. Didn't really pay that much attention. They were out.
I mean, they probably still do, but they used to have the most haunted parties. Get all their mates around, watch Most Haunted live.
Exactly. Well, we
You
used
know,
to do that on a weekly basis on
we
special
did.
occasions. You know, like Halloween, it was like rather than
We done
partying,
that.
which is what we do now, it was like it was the most haunted life. But at the end of the day, that was what pushed me into going, oh, I can do it. Let's do it. Yeah. But it was only when I made that step into it, rather than just sitting there on the TV watching it, that I started to question the why. Does that make sense?
That's yeah. I mean, I started doing it on the TV show, and they're like, when they're in the attic and stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, there's a spirit of a, I don't know, horse or something in the attic, and it's like, well, why is that there? That was stupid. They're just making it up now. I still think the best, most haunted live there ever was the one where they were looking for Dick Turpin. Derek Accor announcing live on air that Mary loved Dick.
Mm.
That was the funniest moment on TV. Absolutely hilarious. But
I remember that.
yeah, it was very much what got me into the paranormal. And after a few months in, I started to learn more and more. And that's sort of when I made the switch from being a ghost hunter to paranormal investigator. Because, you know, you start investigating and learning more. And that's the point of an investigator. And it does bug me now that people come into the field after watching these ghost hunting shows, don't want to learn anything, but they're just there for the thrill of the chase, and they call themselves paranormal investigators. That's a really big bugbear for me. It's like, you're not investigating nothing, you're there for the thrill. Why are you investigators? You're not investigating anything.
No, but I think you go from ghost watcher, which is watching the TV, to hunter,
Yep.
where you get into the field and you start learning, you start your paranormal journey,
Yeah, you stay
and
a
then you
ghost
become a paranormal investigator.
only if you want to learn. If you want to learn and progress, then you become a paranormal investigator.
But I think most people do. Do you not feel that?
There are. I do know a few people that are quite happy to just go with the fluffy rubbish that comes out. You know, the K2 lights go off, and it's, oh yeah, it's a ghost.
But I have to say this, working, because, you know, we all know I come from a very spiritual background before I hit the paranormal field. Working the paranormal field and the spiritual in unison with knowledge, but with a belief system in the spiritual, is sometimes a hard balancing act.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a few mediums in my team, and I mean, sometimes I use them to say, you know, like, is there any spirit in this room? And they'll say, yeah, I don't know, it's standing in the corner. So I might concentrate my efforts towards that corner if the spirit is supposed to be there, based on what the medium said. But I'm very dubious about using mediums.
But we have always said as well, this is one of the other concepts we have said, is that if we're going to get answers, we need that balance between the spiritual and the scientific side of things.
Absolutely. I mean, I've gone into locations. We had a private case, and there were supposed to be two spirit men come in, and basically they would shout at the little boy that was there and really scare him. And we spoke to the parents, and they said, whatever it is coming from the kitchen archway into the living room, and they showed me where the kid was when he keeps getting scared. So we concentrated on where the spirit was supposed to be entering the room, and they had an archway in between the living room and the kitchen, and we picked up with the EMF detector a ball of energy dead centre of the archway. We run the K2 all the way around the archway. We actually had a member of the ASSAP with us on this investigation, and he conducted his own experiments and stuff. But we just couldn't find anywhere that this ball of energy was coming from. You know, we had a look at the door frame, we had a look at what it was made of. We run the detector around the whole of the door frame very slowly.
But there are roaming EMFs.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't roaming anywhere. It was just static, right dead centre of the archway.
So did you have a medium or anything with you at the time?
We didn't, but we did take one. But it was about as useful as a chocolate teapot.
Because it would have been interesting to see what they were picking up at that point too.
Yeah, no, he claimed that there was a vortex in the doorway.
And so you were getting an EMF reading in the doorway.
And we were getting the EMF reading dead centre of the archway. There was nothing coming from the doorway frame at all. Nothing from the TV, because the TV was in the corner as well, next to the door frame. But that was emitting low EMF, and it wasn't the field wasn't reaching the doorway at all. So it just sort of baffled us to how and why that energy ball was there. So when the medium said, like, "Oh yeah, there's a energy conduit there, a vortex," we thought, okay, well that is a possible theory. Assuming they existed in the first place, and that the fact that the spirits emanate from there as well, it's either going to be a vortex or that is where they reside.
Yeah.
So again, there's two theories there. I mean, we tried to debunk it as much as we could, but we just couldn't explain it at all. So we just had to go with the possibility that, as far-fetched as it was, that it was either a vortex or that's where they reside. And when the energy builds up enough, it emits the spirit.
Well, yeah, or there could be another explanation for it.
Hello!
Good evening, Jo, and how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Right, we've gone right back to before any experience in the paranormal field, like when we stepped right back in time when you very first started, and you literally had no knowledge whatsoever. What was one of your first experiences?
Oh God!
You've done quite a few, haven't you?
Well, because I knew from an early age, though, didn't I, about the paranormal? Because I kind of had experiences prior to kind of understanding what was going on with me. So I think my earliest memory of something paranormal happening was when I saw my teacher walking across the hallway in assembly and having what I thought was vapor behind her, but these beautiful colours. So that's kind of one of my earliest memories, if I'm honest.
So that was like the aura, was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's what I now know as the aura. And then, obviously, about 7 or 8, I asked my mum to buy me loads of books, and that's when I started reading and took a fascination of Harry Price and all the oldie worldy books that you have. So, yeah, I don't know. It's strange, isn't it, when you talk about your childhood and what you used to do and...
Yeah,
although I had an interest in all that in the paranormal before I got into the field, it was only sort of like watching it on the TV, and then I went, oh, I can do that. So I then stepped into it, and it was only when I stepped into it I started to ask the why in regards to paranormal investigation. I knew plenty of folklore and mythology and tales, but I hadn't looked deeper into that. And it was only when I stepped into it I started looking deeper into lots of different aspects of the paranormal field. And I was saying how it's hard sometimes to balance knowledge and spirituality between the two, because sometimes you know too much of the logical, psychological side of things to then work spiritually. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How do you find that?
I think when I kind of realised what I make myself sound like a bloody like some sort of a freak or something, don't I? But I think when I kind of started to understand what was happening, and I realised that it wasn't normal for children of that age to do what I was doing, my mum kind of took me under her wing. So reading all of the books and everything kind of just made me realise that I was normal in that field. whereas in the investigations kind of happened a little bit later. So investigating for me started when I was around about 13.
Wow.
So
that's still
yeah.
young.
Yeah, but because we just had that amazing fascination in ghost stories and things like that, and obviously being of the ability that I am, actually spoke to my school friends, and I remember being in one of my friend's basements playing the Ouija board, and I actually said to my friend, I don't think we should be doing this, and she was like, yeah we should, and I was like, we need to open it and close it properly, and they were like, no you don't. I was like, yes you do. You shouldn't be messing with things that you don't understand. And sure enough, obviously the stigma that's attached to Ouija boards. She actually said to me, oh, I've been having really bad dreams, and her chinchilla passed away, and everything was attributed to us playing the Ouija board.
Do you think that was just because she believed that, and there wasn't anything bad from the Ouija board, it was just a belief in it?
Yeah, I do, to be honest. So, but yeah, that's my earliest childhood.
See, because I do remember doing like a Ouija board when I was sort of around that age, but there was no like, it was just like, it's fun.
Yeah. It was really funny because a friend of mine who I used to work in Greece with, she messaged me a couple of nights ago actually, and she said, I've had to take a Ouija board off a group of 12-year-old girls, and this girl's mother had bought it for her. And they were all sat around playing it, and she said, nothing bad's going to happen, is it? And I was like, well, it just depends on, obviously, the stigma that's attached to it. Then quite possibly, I said, but, at that age, they really shouldn't have any sort of, inkling of how to do that.
No, but I don't think you do. I think, bearing in mind, it really was a parlour game. It was marketed as a game to start with, wasn't it, Ouija? And so it was aimed at kids.
Yeah, it was. It was the who did it to start off with?
Oh God, now you're asking.
Was it Mattel?
Oh, I can't remember.
I don't know. I thought it was Waddington's, but it could have been Mattel. Yeah.
But yeah, it was aimed at children 8 and above, wasn't it? And it actually gave you detailed instructions on how to play it.
Yeah, it did. And there were so many different sorts, like when you think about it. And you don't even need a Ouija. You could just do, like, I think we were playing around with one and we had scraps of paper with the letters written on it.
Yeah, that's what I'd done on the first time I used it.
Yeah, and I thought, to be fair, I think we even used a plastic cup. That's how bad it was.
It was a chessboard table, and we put the letters all the way around the edge of it, and had a upside down glass. But I have gone on to use a Ouija board, and we lost the planchette, so we used an upside down egg cup.
The things you do back into day.
But the time when I used the letters around the chessboard, the spirit kept knocking off the letters and it was irritating, so we decided to sellotape them all to the table. And it's like,
we will overcome.
Yeah.
Ha! Try removing that spirit.
Yeah. I think we used words to that effect.
But back in the day, like when you are kids and you are playing around, I know you have a different perspective, Joe, because you were like involved. You knew you had it was different for you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So from our perspective,
but from still like being around kids who didn't have any experiences and things like that kind of made me more intrigued. So, I understand how you lot were as children and what, how people got into the paranormal. But then obviously when people hear how I got into it, it is different because I've been in it for so long. But like my friends all sat there and we tried to do all the aura photographs and things like that. We tried to get the Bibles of, the A to Z of psychic abilities and this, that and the other. And they read all the books and things like that. And it's quite funny because as I was moving some certain things out of the cellar when it flooded, I'd found a box of old books that were, mine from my mum's house when I was about 7 and 8. And there was the famous 5 books in there, and then there was all paranormal books, and I was like, wow. And it just kind of stirs up that nostalgia, doesn't it?
It does, because we were saying that right at the head of the show, like last night we went out and we actually visited a church where it was one of our very first like investigations, and you look at the environment in a completely different way now to how you did when you first went out, you know. And what was the very first can you remember what your very first investigation was?
My very first investigation was a house, which was an old house, but it had been boarded up. And they'd said that a lady had actually committed suicide in the garage. So that was our first investigation, and we did trespass. And I think I was about 13, 14 when that happened. And yeah, and my mum absolutely hit the roof when she found out that I'd been in this house. She actually then explained to me how she said it was disrespectful to break and enter and this, that, and the other, and if the police had caught me, and you know, she wasn't best pleased, put it that way, but she kind of
can't see a point really, but you know.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing though, is like I understood her point, but at that time it was dangerous and it was exciting, but it was also frightening at the same time. But so we had none. Sorry.
Did you take any kit? Did you have any kit?
We didn't have any kit at that age, did we? I mean, there was nothing, was there? You know, all you had to go on was your senses, and I think we took a piece of paper in there and a pencil, and that was it. We didn't do anything, and you know, we sat round and called out like you do, and that was about it, because there was nothing significant in kit-wise at that age. We didn't know anything about it. We knew, you know, there were all these experiments that Harry Price had done, but there were nothing that we could have got on that sort of scale to go to an investigation at 13. There was just no way.
Well, I'm not being funny, Joe, but when I was 13, the internet wasn't even around. We had no mobile phones. We had a landline that was stuck to a wall.
Yeah. Our mobile phones were telephone boxes on the street corner.
Yeah.
When you think, actually, how far and how fast technology has come in that time, you know, and when you look at, like, when you very first start, the first pieces of kit you got, I mean, Carl Hutchinson has got, like, every generation, I think you'd call it, wouldn't you, of, like, what was it, the Ovilus or whatever it was called? He was saying, when he said he did an inventory of his stock the other night, it took him a week. He ain't joking, because that bloke is so teched up. I haven't even got any tech. You know, I mean, my tech is crystals, because I work spiritually in the field.
Yeah, I must admit, I've got no tech. I mean, I've got a few bits and pieces that I've collected over the years, but nothing near what Cole's got.
I think he is an exception to the rule, to be fair.
Yeah. I don't think anyone has.
Joe, what have you got now?
Oh, I've still got my Ovilus. I've got my Radio Shack spirit box. I've got an infrared spirit box as well. I've only got a limited amount because I had the flood, didn't I?
Yeah, that's true. You lost
I've only got a limited amount, so I lost so much stuff. And it's when, you know, when that happens, you actually realise just how much kit you had.
Mm.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
like,
because you lost everything, didn't you? Pretty much.
Everything. Yeah, everything. It was just... And you know what? When you've been on investigations and you've had kit and things, and they mysteriously go walkabouts as well, and people borrow things and they don't give them back, and you just kind of think, you know, that costs money. And guests, obviously, a K2 meter to a guest is, it's only a little bit of, you know, kit that works every so often. What they don't realise is that piece of kit costs you about 50 quid.
Mm. Yeah, true.
And it's expensive, and it is an expensive hobby, especially if you're like Carl and he loves the tech side of things. And, you know, we all do. We all want to have the next big piece of kit. I mean, you know, when the SLS cameras came out, you know, they were selling those in America for nigh on $1,500 or something, I think it was.
Yeah,
Well,
they were.
that's extortionate.
I can't believe how much some of the, and I know it's controversial what it is and who made it, but you know, the Wonder Boxes, when they go up on eBay, they hit extortionate amounts of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't understand it. But you say that, I get a crystal and I see that go for extortionate amounts of money and I'm not surprised. So why am I surprised in regards to a piece of tech? Play devil's advocate there.
Mm.
Do you see what I mean? I suppose it's all about perspective, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's perspective and how it's portrayed as well. I think maybe. I think that's possibly why people want it so much, and they're willing to pay ridiculous prices for it.
Where do we go from the SLS? What's the next big thing on the old paranormal technology front?
I don't like the SLS. I think back to basics. Everyone would be just like going out, pen and paper, voice recorder, and that's it.
What do you
Yeah,
think,
I think it is, because at the end of the day, the biggest tool that we have is ourselves, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
you,
And that's
you
being said in the chat room too.
Yeah, and you automatically know that if there is something there, you sense that straight away, and no amount of technology or anything like that can replace that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And I mean,
I
even
know,
when
I've noticed.
when you're not a medium, you know, just normal people will actually say, "Oh, I'm feeling this," and you know, well, you'll know, won't you, Paul, when you've done investigations? People who have never been on investigations previously have no idea how tech works, and they don't know how to work it, and they use themselves
right.
as a tool.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like a massive sway away from tech recently. There's a lot of teams out there that don't go in for these big stuff because it is. I think they're just seeing that it's extortionate amount of money for what they are. I mean, I did it with the what was the EM pump. A lot of teams went out and bought an EM pump. I didn't. I thought, you know what does the same job for like half the price? And I went out and bought myself a plasma ball. You can pick them up for like 20 quid. Plasma balls look so much better. They're more attractive. They're pretty, and they do exactly the same thing as an EM pump.
I've seen one of those plasma balls, being used in a closed seance room, and actually, some of the things that they were experiencing from this was quite fascinating. But it was when I was being shown it, I was like, I don't know enough about this to comment whether or not it's an expected phenomena from this piece of this light thing, or is it abnormal? Is it something weird and different happening there? And so that was something I couldn't really comment on, but it was really interesting to watch it because
I think that's the point, because it then opens up you to other avenues of thinking. But I only bought it because it does the same job as an EM pump. But on the other flip side of that, you can actually see how things interact with the electricity coming from it through the plasma. So, you know, you've got other ways of thinking about it, and it's sort of thinking outside the box. And I think a lot of people are doing that now.
Which is fantastic.
Exactly. They're either making their own equipment designed for thinking outside the box, or they're just using their own senses and coming up with their own ideas. And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
So what's the strangest experiment you've seen when you've been investigating, Joe?
Water ITC.
Okay, explain that one.
Well, they've actually put like a positive ion in and a negative ion in, and then just left a light just above it, and then they've actually generated a current on the inside of it, which then generates pictures. But what they did is they set up a camera to take a picture every 2 seconds. And when you look at the pictures, you can actually see faces of people inside the water. I've never, ever seen that happen before.
Wow, I've not heard of that one before.
No, of course I have.
Yeah, so that was one strange thing that I had that I've seen, but that's about it. And nobody's really like done anything else with that. They've never, like done crystal charged water or anything like that. So maybe using the elements of the earth to be able to do stuff like that might be the next big thing.
Don't they do one where it's got like mirrors all the way around it, which is it's sitting in water, and they put a candle in the middle? Isn't there that experiment as well that I've seen?
I haven't seen that one either.
It's almost like a scrying situation, though. There wasn't any cameras set up on it. It was more like... Because the mirror thing we've seen, haven't we, where it's just like a square mirror.
Yeah.
And then an object or something is placed... Or isn't it an SP7 or something put in the middle, or a voice recorder?
I've seen a voice... I've seen someone... They basically made this box up where all the mirrors are facing each other inside the box.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
A microphone in the middle, and they've done the EVP experiments with that, and they've got some really good results from voices coming through.
Because mirrors are strange things in their own right, aren't they? There's a whole mythology regarding mirrors.
Yeah, I don't like mirrors for that reason.
But what about the Devil's Toy boxes, though? Because they use mirrors, don't they? And you put a voice recorder on the inside of that, and you actually put the mirrors all the way around the outside. We used one of those at Kershaw House in an investigation, and we left it in the billiards room, and the door was locked all night. And what we heard on the voice recorder was phenomenal. You could hear people talking, you could hear the balls being potted, and the scoreboard being moved. But nobody had stepped foot inside that room.
Mm-hmm. See, that's the fascinating part of this, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've all had experiences out in the field and I was saying, even though with all the knowledge that I know since joining the field and that, I can still look back at some experiences I had in those early days where I was out investigating and just using basic tech and my spirituality side of it before I kind of read much. And there are still things I look back on and I still can't explain it.
Mm. Oh yeah, I mean, I've had experiences that I can't explain. We done there's a video on YouTube of my old team on Project Paranormal with Lee Steer, and he actually came down to film it for us, and that was at Chelmsford Museum. And as we'd packed up everything, I mean, we got a few things through the night that was quite interesting, but as we packed up and was literally ready to leave, me and Lee were standing in the foyer of the museum, and we heard the toilet door slam shut and two children laughing.
And with your own ears?
With our own ears, yep. With the doors were quite heavy doors, so you would have really had to go some to slam these doors. And obviously me and Lee was standing right there. We heard them. They couldn't have been no more than, I don't know, 20 foot away from us.
Yeah.
And we heard the door slam and two children laughing inside the bathroom, like the toilets. So we instantly just went in and had a look, and there was no one there. As we opened the door, they've got the light-sensitive lights on there. So you open the door and the lights come on. The lights were off. So there was literally so we could tell that there was no one in there.
Joe?
So that's quite interesting.
Joe?
Yeah, sorry, say that again. You went funny then.
Oh, saying that we've all had experiences where we still, even with the knowledge you now have, years into the field, where you look back and you go, I still can't explain that.
Oh, there's loads of stuff. When I was at St. Catherine's House, and I heard tapping in the corner, and I walked with another girl, and I heard a female voice say, I am here. And it was literally, I looked at the girl, and she said to me, did you just say, I am here? And I just looked at her and I said, no, I thought that was you. So even to this day, I can't explain that. Where did that voice come from?
Mm.
And these aren't things that are captured on video or on EVP or on... These are just personal experiences that we've had, like people have had when they're out in the field. And that's what we want, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's why I joined. I joined in. That's what I wanted. I wanted experiences for myself.
Because when I go out into the field, that is kind of what I want. I want to go back to my ghost hunter days where I'm like experiencing and working the way I work in the field. I don't want to be sitting there with the latest SPR lecture rattling through my brain or an article I've read in, I don't know, Science magazine or whatever it is. I want to just be that girl who went first out to experience it for myself and, you know, get my brain working in a way. What was that? How did that happen? You know what I mean? Go back to basics, as it were. Not basics in regards to, you know what I mean? Go back to that girl without the knowledge. Because sometimes...
It is quite funny, though, isn't it? It's when you get talking to people about the paranormal, hardly anybody really, when you look at the grand scheme of people out there, somebody has got an experience.
Everybody.
About something that they can't explain, but when they explain it to you and they just dismiss it. So because they dismiss it, it kind of dilutes that personal experience. But when you do speak to people and they say, oh yeah, I've had that before where I've been feeling like I've been watched and I've seen things and oh yeah, I've experienced that. And that is when when you watch all these TV shows and people are saying, oh, it's for entertainment purposes only and this, that and the other. They don't realise that TV companies have an awful lot of rules that you can't discuss on TV. You've got to go back to basics and doing, the EVPs and, being your own tool. I think, it is. You've got to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that.
Oh, yeah, because even just doing an interview on TV, you found that there were rules, things you could say and things you couldn't say.
Well, media's all manipulated anyway, isn't it? We all know that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mare. It is a bit of a mare. But, I mean, I kind of like just stepping back. I mean, when we went to that place on Saturday, it was so nostalgic and very weird. It felt strange. Going back to one of the very first places I investigated and not going there actually to do an investigation. We were just like having a wander, and seeing a ghost hunting team. And I thought, God, like however many years ago, that was me standing there at sunset waiting for the sun to go down with my little meters and me backpack and stuff like that,
I could just imagine it now, yeah.
And totally buying into it all.
Oh dear, yeah.
It's
so
funny.
Have you got any more lined up then to go into any nostalgic places?
No, it was only because we were just talking about it and with Richard, the creator, and we was out in the area and we said, pop along there, let's show you. And so it was just it was really off the cuff. We'd been out for dinner and then it was then we started talking about our early, and they were all outdoor ones. They were all tended to be graveyards or bridges or what I mean. When we very first started, they were all those kind of places before we sort of went, right, let's hire a location. It was almost like where we were cutting our teeth, as it were. And it was it's little places that you used to just go and sit up there with your little, I don't know, your voice recorder or your SB7 or whatever it was at the time. Whoever had the newest bit that they'd invested. There was no CCTV or anything like that. It was whatever you could carry in your pockets, and off we went. There was me with Pendulum doing my thing. It was it's so simple. It was so simple back then.
The first,
I kind of want to break into song.
The first investigation we done, it was very as you off the cuff, and I think we just bought a K2 meter, a voice recorder, and a Ouija board, and we just ordered them off eBay, and that's all we went out with that night. We went to the outside of Coalhouse Fort because we didn't have access. You could walk around the outside, and so that's what we done. And there's a church there as well, so you could go around the outside of that. We done EVP work, done the Ouija board, and a bit of K2 work, and I must admit, we did actually catch an EVP. That was really good. But it was of someone talking German.
Ooh.
Yeah. And they were no, I don't understand what they're saying. I was like, well, actually, I can't remember what they said, but I recognised some of the words that they were using because I studied German at school. So yeah, I could make out a few German words, and I was like, yeah, that's German. And then interesting. And then that was like our first outing.
Did you do any research on it after, though, Paul?
No, I didn't. It was just getting to basics getting to learn the equipment that we had and what we was actually doing. And as I said, it was the first one. We really didn't know what we was doing at the time. We just thought we'd have a go, give it a bash. But I would never forget that particular evening because we one of my best mates come with us, and it was absolutely hilarious. They got like a zip slide in the grounds, and she had to go on the zip slide. I think she just managed to clear the ramp at the beginning before she head planted into the sand.
So naive when you look back, I have to say. I think
absolutely. Yeah,
that's the key point. You're so naive when you first step into the. I'm not talking like, I mean, you see teams all over the place now, but for me personally, I was just so naive when I stepped into the field.
It was just.
I had a general knowledge, but absolutely no in-depth knowledge whatsoever, and I certainly didn't know what I know now. We'd done that on the first one just to get grips with the tech and listening back to it afterwards. Once we figured out exactly what we was doing, we went out and learned a little bit more and just progressed from there. And like nearly 15 years later, I'm still here. It's funny, isn't it? It's a funny old world. So that's nearly an hour, guys. We're nearly done on our little pop-up show.
Awesome.
That's gone quick, isn't it?
It always does. Time flies.
It certainly does. Well, don't forget, guys, join me on the Parasearch Radio Facebook page tomorrow night for the live to give you a rundown of all the week shows up and coming. Got some crackers this week, is all I'm saying at this stage.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to Tuesday. Tuesday's going to be good.
Yeah, we've got CJ. CJ's in the chat room tonight. Good evening, CJ. And he is on the show with us on Tuesday, but we're not going to mention the topic yet. Let's save that one.
Oh, yeah. Under strict orders to keep your mouth shut.
Mm-hmm. The launch of that will be on Monday on the Facebook Live. So thank you so much for joining me, guys.
Thank you.
It's been lovely having you, Joe.
Bit late than never.
It's kind of how you roll, darling. And on that note, we bid you a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to join us for more shows throughout the week. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and the World Wide Web to keep up to date with all the shows right here on Parasearch Radio.